Well, Daryl Heath, I'd like to introduce you to Jackson Aid. He has we just had that wonderful song, Maria. Jackson, how are you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing very well, very well. Thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate it.
Well, we were so excited that you'd be on the show with us, and your music's just awesome. I love your entire album, and I'm enlightening Heath and Daryl with it. What do you guys think?
Oh, it's great, man. Jackson, thanks for being on the show today with us.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Well, Jackson, one of the things that we've been doing on the Homes and Loans show, obviously, it's about real estate and mortgage loans, but we love to have a music segment, and we like to give a shout out to up and coming artists such as yourself and songwriter. And so I thought if you wouldn't mind, if you could just share with the audience today, what's your story? Didn't you come in? Were you raised in the Dakotas?
Yeah. I moved to Nashville about 5 years ago off of a whim. I was born and raised in Bismarck, North Dakota, which is, I would have to say, the city sort of the size of Franklin. Mix a little Cool Springs in there, and that's Bismarck. And I came out to Nashville on, I think, any other dreamer's whim. Not necessarily to make it big. I just really wanted to write songs. And so for the past 5 years, I've just been doing just that. Of course, you guys just heard Maria off my latest project called Love. Yeah, and I'm still at it, still doing it. There's a bunch of stuff in the works and all that good stuff. And I love Nashville and the surrounding areas. Just a great, it almost feels like one big community to some degree. And I think that becomes even more prominent when you are playing music, because that community itself is kind of the foundation of Nashville.
It's like a family of music, isn't it?
Yeah. It's interesting because I can go out. Doesn't matter if it's a Tuesday or Friday. I'll probably see the same folks, especially if I'm in the same scene. There's plenty of different types of music going on in Nashville and the surrounding areas. But it's funny because it is sort of a small knit community, and everybody knows somebody that you know.
Well, absolutely. And I love your songwriting. I think that, we've talked before that your dad was very instrumental. And tell us a little bit of the music that you had listened to that he had, I guess, inspired you, that got you to this place where you became a songwriter and you're an artist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I grew up in I don't want to say like a musical household. Like, my parents aren't musicians or anything like that. My mom had us in piano lessons, when I was like 5 or 6. At that immediate moment, I didn't even really take too well to piano. Like, it's not something that I found real enjoyable. But there was always just this weird combination of family and music. We always enjoyed music. It didn't matter if we were going on a road trip or Mom was showing us something that she enjoyed from when she was our age. And so a lot of those records, I would have to say, like, Bob Seger, George Thorogood, Willie Nelson, stuff like that on my father's side, John Mellencamp. I mean, all of the classic songwriters, artists that sort of have come before me. My mom was sort of doing the same thing with a lot of Whitney Houston, Elton John, Tina Turner type stuff. And there was always, back then there was always records. So it wasn't so much sitting at a computer, being able to type something into Spotify. Like, I actually still am right now staring at some of my father's vinyls that he gave me. And there's Beatles, Bob Seger, John Mellencamp, Eagles, Rolling Stones, Fleetwood Mac, the Beach Boys, and they're still just original vinyls. So, you get to that kind of sense of influence in your life, and you start, also, taking on, like, what you enjoy. And I was really actually into more hip-hop thing when I was younger. And then, of course, all of this other music manifested, through my adolescence all the way up into my early, late 20s, and then especially now when I'm, like, actually sitting down and trying to craft songs, I feel like all of that stuff comes through from time to time. Maria kind of has that nice feel-good John Mellencamp dance feel with a nice B3 organ in it. if you listen to a song like Now That You're Gone, it kind of has this this weird waltz thing happening that can be something from like Otis Redding that also has
Yeah,
a massive B3 solo and some weird doo-wop sing-along antics behind it. So when I look back on like a lot of things that have influenced me, it's like, okay, now I can get it. And it's usually after the fact of like writing a song or even much more so producing it and then turning it into a record that I actually really am able to pinpoint the influences that are like deep inside of my musical DNA, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I think you're a deep writer. I think your whole album, the Love album, I think it'd be something, if the folks really like what they're hearing, that it would, for them to go on and to, listen to that and possibly, might want to purchase some of those songs. I really
Yeah.
think that you have a depth to your writing, and all those people that you talked about, those influences, I feel like that they really do come through. And I love that. I love them both. And like you're saying, the Now That You're Gone that we'll play after we get done with the interview, I think people are going to just really enjoy that. Heath,
Yep.
do you have any questions for Jack?
Yeah, Jackson, I would, where do you get your inspiration from in your songwriting? I know you mentioned your dad, maybe even the vinyl records,
Yeah.
or something like that. But where does your inspiration mostly come from?
You know, to be completely honest with you, because I get this question quite a bit, what's that song about? What's the song about type thing. Sometimes I don't even know. I really don't. Like, I really do just sit down to write. If you sort of pick apart some of my lyrics, I kind of I actually sit down to write a poem or some prose of some sort. And then I essentially try to put music to it later on. Does that always happen? No. So a lot of the inspiration comes, from somewhere. It's like an innate thing, but I could also say that it's sort of experience. Anybody that's really kind of wanting to be a songwriter, it's like, go out and just live your life. Just be. Like, have your heart broken. Go out and have fun with your friends. Have someone do you wrong and fall in love at the same time. And you'll find out quickly, like, all of the trials and tribulations and joys and happiness of life somehow sort of intertwine and tumble together in some beautiful, manifested, weird way that we really don't understand. So when I sit down to write, it's like, once again, when I look at influences, kind of how I was explaining to Jill about like musical influences, sometimes when I write, I learn more about myself like after the fact than I do like throughout the process or even beforehand. I always look at it as like, everything's quite retrospective for me when I'm writing a record or writing a song. I have a tough time. I'm trying to right now. Actually, this new record is kind of in that, but I'm trying to write a real-time expression of like what's happening. But a songwriter or a poet or a painter always sits down and like kind of paints on something that already existed, and it's sort of, affecting them to some degree within their life or being or soul. You know what I'm saying with that?
I do. It's quite deep,
so-
actually.
Yeah. And so, like, a lot of the inspiration just comes from, experience. Like, come on, even the fact of packing up my bags and putting the car on top of the U-Haul and driving out here knowing not a single person is some sort of experience. And a lot of that's coming out, like, right now in my writing. I don't know really what that means or what it is, and I won't understand it until, like, after the fact. A lot of things, like, when I look back, say on the song Maria or Now That You're Gone, or even like a song like Wildflower. It's funny because the record was done and like 6 months later I was like listening to it a year later and I was like, aha, I know what that's about. Or like, aha, I'm talking to myself on that one. And I kind of have those moments. So if any, like, the inspiration can truly come from anything. I try not to really understand what the inspiration is, because if you sort of try to mathematically, systematically create some weird synthesis constantly out of a weird formula, I don't feel that it becomes that vulnerable. I don't feel that it's honest. So I honestly I almost let the pen do the writing itself, or let the words tell me exactly what I need to say, versus me sitting down and being like, I'm going to write about this, or I'm going to write about that. I don't tend to really be like, oh, I'm inspired by this, so I need to sit down and do this. I honestly sit down, and if I have a line come to my head, I'll write it down. Doesn't matter if it's in my iPhone or on a notepad that I carry with me every day. And I'll come back to it, and then I'll jot a few more lines down. And then I'm like, I get this story. I know where I need to take this now. That type of stuff. It's really hard for me to define where it comes from, because if I was able to do that, I would just be able to write songs all day, every day. So, like, the question itself is interesting to answer. It's a great one because I love dissecting that and trying to sort of have this weird, this ego thing where I have to step back and be like, what am I really about here? What am I doing? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
It's fun to answer that. I thank you. That's a cool question. And I bet you I overflow the pot full of words that time around, but that's a cool question. So
We can tell why you're a songwriter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're very prolific with your words.
You are.
Yeah.
And, to add on to that too, you kind of answered my next question for me is that, gosh, are you better at songwriting when you just said, okay, I'm going to sit down, I'm writing a song, I'm writing for the next 3 hours, or you just go about your day doing things and stuff just pops in your head, right? I think it would be
110%.
Yeah, that's
Yep.
why you carry your notepad with you, is to say, and that's
So-
the way I am with my job. I don't write songs, but with what I do,
Exactly.
and things hit me late at night. When you kind of slow down, your brain slows down. Oh, there's an idea.
Yeah.
You
I tend, I actually don't make time to write. There isn't this
It just
whole,
comes.
like, it's 3:30 for the next hour, I'm going to sit down and play guitar and try to write a song. Absolutely not. I do not abide by those rules. I do not agree with them. For some people, that is their way. Everybody has their own path to success, somebody told me once, and I kind of look at it that manner. It's just like, I don't delegate it. I don't delegate it as like a session. I don't delegate it. I don't know. I really don't know. I just sit down. Like I'll come home after work a long day, and like some of the best ideas, they've always said that come in the shower after you've undressed and you're having a shower at the end of the day, and you're like washing off all of the day's stuff, but at the same time your mind is like full of ideas and like almost cleansing itself, and like you have that genius idea. That has happened, but I don't sit down. Like I said, the inspiration, I don't know where it comes from. If I could pinpoint it, I would be able to, monetize this to some degree. I am just like wanting to write. I love sitting down. I think the best rule for myself is that like, it's so much harder to like, kind of stray away from sitting down. So the first rule is always to put your butt in the seat, right? Sit down to do work. Doesn't mean that anything good has to come out of it. The second part is like the distraction of it. Like, so if you sit down and like, if I strum a few chords, a song might come out. Do I know that that's going to happen? No, but it just might happen. And if it does, I'll play with it. It's kind of like a weird shape-shifting thing that can come in 5 minutes or it can happen in 3 months. And it's kind of a playful cat and mouse thing that you do with these ideas, where the ideas will be like a 3-year-old running away from you, and you're like trying to protect it. It's like, no, come back. You're awesome. You're like, and some of the songs like you let go, and you're like, oh, it's time for you to go to kindergarten. You're so great, and I love you, but I got to let you go. You're just, I don't know. It's just an interesting thing because I love chasing the next idea, and I think truly that's what fuels me. Once again, I'm not trying to find it. I'm letting the idea kind of peek its head around a corner that's in a dark part of the house, and I'm like, I see you. Okay, I'm going to find you one day. I don't know,
Well, and I've got here's one for you. So, and I'm sure it's different for every songwriter, but any idea what, I'm always curious about what the percentage is of what songs where, are written where the lyrics come first, or what songs come when the music's written first, or the music comes out first, and you need to come up with the lyrics,
Everybody's different.
Yeah.
I would have to say for me, once again, sometimes I'll have like a lyric in my head. I'll just have one line, and it kind of will swim itself across a melody. I don't know. I first started writing songs just on acoustic guitar and piano because I think that if a song can exist on an acoustic guitar or a piano, if you can't play it for one person or 10,000 people, and that sort of have the same thing happen with the full band production, I don't necessarily really think it's a song. Some people argue that. So in that nature, a lot of the times I would have to say I'm more of a writer. I like to sit down and just write, and I don't try to put music to it. So a lot of those lines, I wrote like a lot of prose for the last record. And if you don't know what prose is, it's like a stream of consciousness. You just sit down and write. You honestly don't know what you're doing. Like you're just letting go of your mind, and like whatever's on it, you write it. So there was a lot of that for this last project. And the funny thing is that later on, when I would come up with like little melodies on the guitar, it's almost like those things that I had written were like internalized inside of a notebook. And then some of those phrases started making their way into the lyrics of the songs. But I didn't realize that they were both intertwined until I went back and read the prose maybe like 2 months later. And so I was like, that line came from there. I was like, oh, that's cool. You know, it's kind of intertwined. I would have to say 50-50 on my end as a percentage.
Yeah.
You know, like it's straight down the middle for me. Once again, I don't try to sit down and write words to music all the time, or I don't try to write music to words. I let the ideas be themselves. And like I said before, sometimes you just have to let them go because they're just not good enough, or they're just not ready to sort of be shaped yet. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's good stuff, though.
Well, Jack, thank you so much for being on the show. How can people reach you? How can they listen to your music, and how can they purchase it?
Yeah, absolutely. So my website is just jacksonaide.com. Of course, I have all this proper social media: Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I have a LinkedIn, all that good stuff. It's 2020. Why not?
Exactly.
But on that website, jacksonaide.com, there'll be a link to all that. You'll be able to hit a Spotify. If you use Spotify, you'll be able to get to my Instagram. You'll be able to get to Apple Music if you do that. SoundCloud, where you can listen to the album for completely free. It's out there, all on that website. That is the best spot for all the consumption.
Well, I would encourage all the listeners out there to listen to your music. And the Maria is awesome. And then we're getting ready to do Now That You're Gone. And Jackson let me pick the 2 songs off the album today to listen to. And those, I love them all, but those were just 2 that kind of spoke to me in this session. And I hope that you'll be back on the show with us again sometime, and we can play some more. And
anytime you guys want me. Anytime you guys
Daryl, you got any questions for Jackson?
Happy to do it.
Every time I was going to ask something, he kind of answered it. I was interested in, his experience coming from another part of the country. And, that's just been a part of his songwriting journey, I think, as he explained. And Jackson, we have another gentleman who does a show here, and he often quotes Hank Williams. It says if a song can't be written in 10 minutes, you might ought to throw it away. Now, I know that would be subject to some debate, but those 10-minute songs are usually the ones, the keepers. Yeah, they're gifts.
Yeah. Well, Johnny Cash said 4 chords and the truth.
Yeah,
Something
I love it.
of that nature.
Yes.
It's kind of that those 2 quotes sort of intertwine each other, oddly enough. It's like, keep it simple. And I think that's sort of what I'm kind of reverberating to some degree with what I'm saying. It's like I don't try to do anything at all. Like, yeah, I love to write songs, but it's like I'm not trying to write a #1 hit.
Well, I think you probably already have written a #1 hit. It's just got to hit the right ears. And I think
you're too kind.
I think you're an awesome talent, and I love your music. And I'm one of your fans, and I think I got 2 more here, Heath and Daryl. Now
absolutely.
So we are your fan base. How about that?
I love it, guys. I appreciate the kind words. Honestly, it means a lot.
Well, thank you so much, and Daryl's gonna give Now That You're Gone a virtual spin.
A virtual spin.
Take care, Jack. Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll see you.